This video has been made possible by Paradox Interactive. Paradox Interactive approached me, and they said, you know what, ASpec, it's all good and all, you're pretty good at this game, but we're gonna bet you that you cannot play as an Imperial Fiefdom and break free from your vassal status. And I thought to myself, I'll take you up under that challenge, sir and or madam. I will make sure that I will break free from my vassal status. Therefore, that's what we're going to be doing today, as well as in a follow-up video as well. We're going to break free from the Empire and maybe do some subjugation of our own. Now, Imperial Fiefdom by itself is fairly straightforward. You basically start off as an empire who is under the vassalization of an advanced AI empire, and you have to choose a specialty from the new Overlord vassalization specialties. Anyway, what that translates into in order to break free from this, or at least to do it most effectively, is, in my personal opinion, the Prospectorium. Now, the Prospectorium is a very interesting vassal type. Essentially, you are completely focused on resources. And whilst the Bulwark, which is a military-focused vassal, may sound like a good idea, they are very much focused on the defensive side of things. And whilst you can turn your entire empire into a massive, sprawling Maginot line of defense networks, I'd rather go on the offensive instead. The Stellaris, sure, you can out-tech the other guys. Is that really something that you want to go do in this particular case? Is it going to help you? No, I think not. Prospectoriums to me are going to be the best approach for this, because once we declare independence, they're no longer going to get our resources, which means that we have plentiful resources. And if we build up properly, we'll have all the defenses that we need in order to build our fleets quickly and efficiently in order to overthrow the feudal empire that is against that. So yeah, we're going to convert into a prospectorium, and essentially what that translates to is that we have an agreement. An agreement with this here species, the Holy Spear and Empire, and essentially what it means is that we will get some research. We get a subsidy on research, that is nice, but we will have to pay 30% of our basic resources, 30% of our advanced resources, but they don't want any of our strategic resources, which I think is incredibly helpful. In addition, we only have to defend them if they ever go to war, and that is essentially it. There's regulated expansions as well, which means that there is a tithe. Essentially, whenever we want to expand, we will have to pay some money. And we just spawned next to the motherlode of planets. Now, in order to leverage my resources quite nicely, I did a little bit of preparation for this because I already knew I was going to play as a Prospectorium because it made the most sense. First of all, we are in fact pleasure seekers, which means that we will have additional bonuses, but we won't get any bonuses from servants because we're not autocratic as far as I know. Oh, wait, no, we are autocratic, which means that we can get prisoners with jobs, and on top of that, mining guilds will allow us to get all the minerals that we need. Now, one of the big things in this particular case is, whilst we are part of a fiefdom, a other empire, they will ask us for all sorts of trade deals, and we'll probably get towards that situation relatively quickly. Now, what is going to pop up here is all of these requests for trade agreements, for instance. All of these vassals will ask us for trade agreements. And whilst embassies are fine, they will allow us to get better relationships with these empires. Things like trade deals, etc., are not all that great, and we would want to ignore these as much as possible. Such as this commercial pact that is coming in right now, because why? It will cost us influence. And considering we only have +3 influence right now, and on top of that we pay a tithe based on our expansion regulation, essentially we have to pay a percentage of our expansion influence to the Overlord, it means that we need every single sliver of influence we can muster. So all these commercial pacts are nice and all, but they're not going to do us all that much good. Whilst my science ships are going around and getting eyes on this king of a solar system over here, you may have noticed that we have a small problem, and that is our consumer goods income. Right now, we are generating a total of 28 consumer goods within our empire, and of course, all of those are being generated on our capital. Now there's a real problem here because, of course, the Overlord takes 30% of that, which is not enough for us to cover our expenses when it comes to consumer goods. And this is something that we will see again and again when it comes to the Prospectorium within a fiefdom, because consumer goods are going to be a big problem for a long time, and they will be something that we will need to put quite a lot of focus on and proactively buy from the market. And until we are stable on consumer goods, we're going to be running into some problems, one of which is a situation. And we'll be rolling into that very shortly, and I'll go into a little bit more depth in what that actually means within the grand scheme of things. And there we go. So there's a situation. It's a brand new system that has come with the new update, and essentially it is a brand new screen in the situation log that essentially tells us, hey, there is a shortage here. This has an impact on your empire, and it has multiple stages. Here at stage 1, where we are right now, we have a minor deficit that essentially reduces our happiness by 5%, unity goes down by 15%, research is absolutely garbage, and that's pretty much the first step of it. If we let it go all the way, catastrophic deficit, essentially, empire defaulted, all costs will go up by 25%, influence will go down by 50%, unity go by 50%, and ship weapon damage, and this is the kicker right here, goes down by 25%. This is a huge problem, which means that we have these options over here. We can maintain our current expenditures or cut our mineral investments. Essentially, we will reduce unity and researcher output in order to reduce our consumer good upkeep, which I think is a reasonable compromise. And immediately, as the months will start ticking over, we will see a result from this. And this screen, this shortage screen, will only pop up when there is in fact a shortage. You can also have rebellions, you can have robotic uprisings, and all sorts of other wonderful things that can happen. I'm really happy with the situation screen because it adds a certain level of flavor on the internal politics side. But yeah, our Overlord is stealing all of our consumer goods, and we need to get free from this guy. So we've just turned into a level 1 Prospectorium. This basically means that all of our mining stations will be cheaper, we will get more energy, minerals, alloys, and strategic resources. Not consumer goods, and of course that is a problem. There's a bunch of additional bonuses. For instance, we can get rare resources that can be discovered, which I think is incredibly useful in this particular case. But the Overlord will also get relay network bonuses once those become a thing. And in this particular case, the reason why we started off with so many construction ships is so that we can get those additional bonuses from space as soon as possible. But again, consumer goods do not spawn in space, and that is, of course, a major issue. And yeah, it basically translates to us needing to build industrial districts as soon as possible, because we're going to be running into these situations where we want to make sure that we cut mineral investments as soon as possible. Otherwise, we're going to be once again running into those problems. We're going to need to do quite a lot of surveying nearby to make sure that we can capture those systems, and we're in a good spot here. We have a lot of space to expand in the south. Yes, I will establish a embassy, but I will not take your trade deal because I need the influence, and yes, first contact protocols are just fine. Well, this game just got a whole lot more interesting. The Cybrex as my precursor. This is a hand, by the way, not a spaceship. Look, it's a hand holding a brush. And that basically means that I will get the artifact, which is the Warforge, which allows us to turn minerals into unlimited alloys, essentially, plus a free ring world, which will allow us to get a ton of additional megastructures very early on, which is a good thing. And there's a bunch of continental worlds nearby as well, which I will need to claim as soon as possible. Plus expansion, that additional pop from colonization fever is really, really good. I was tempted to go for our prosperity just to offset our costs for consumer goods once again, but we're going to need to focus on consumer goods separately. We do have a very healthy amount of minerals coming in at the moment, and we should be good for now. But we need to be careful, because this guy, this Overlord, will keep expanding, which can be problematic. Let's take a look at what they have to say. Yeah, they have a bunch of vassals underneath them, and we need to be careful about that. We can also see this over here in the agreement screen. They're all the standard vassals, and we are the only Prospectorium here. We could try to negotiate a negotiation soon, but we'll see how that goes. Resource discovery. It looks like we've found ourselves some energy or minerals. We will get either 3 to 5 energy in a deposit with a cache of 500 to 1500 energy, or 3 to 5 minerals in the same amount, also in minerals in terms of a cache. The imagery is rather nice. We need to be super careful here to make the right choice. Minerals we're fine at. Energy not though. Energy is going to be super critical here, and it's spawning over in this particular system. So I'm just going to go and send one of my construction ships out in order to pick up that resource so that we can populate this system. In addition, there's a ruined science nexus over here, which could come in handy very much so down the line if we can capture it, but there's a good chance that the Overlord will take that system due to the prioritization of the AI. But once we fight for freedom, we will try to claim that system, because this right here is a boon and a half for any fledgling empire, especially one that is running behind in the science department. And we have now become a Prospectorium level 2, which means that our mining stations are even cheaper. We get even more energy, minerals, and alloys a month, which is great because we need that in order to offset this annoying consumer good thing. And on top of that, we get researchable technologies for all of our specials. And what that is, that translates into essentially anything involving the rare resources or strategic resources, if you will. So for instance, if we change them here, we can now see that we get crystal mines, gas extraction, etc. But we do want to continue with nebula refining because we need to get all those delicious space resources. Now, the thing here is that not only do we get those bonuses, we also have the opportunity to get special traits on our leaders, which means additional credits from jobs, on minerals, energy, and alloys, as well as several other things. But we also have the chance of other nefarious things happening. Thankfully, we can now also get rare resources from space, from random sites that pop up. We haven't had one in a while, aside from that initial energy boost that we had over here. But it's still nice to have. We only have one more level to go before we hit level 3, and we should be getting even more resources then, which should hopefully offset our economy nicely, so we no longer run into this consumer good issue that we have right now. But we are trying to very heavily negate that by building more industrial districts where we can, and at the same time also offsetting our food issues, because food is a bit of a problem and we need to resolve that as soon as we can. So we've turned level 3 Prospectorium, which means that finally we're going to get a lot more resources, and our mining stations are a lot cheaper, even though we've effectively hit a stumble block with aliens everywhere, and we don't necessarily have the resources to have a good standing fleet, so this may be a larger problem. Still though, we're going to get a lot of bonuses out of this. For instance, now we can find Zro dark matter and living metals, so that is nice. Having the technologies available for that is cool too, but it's kind of problematic considering these technologies are rather expensive, 12,000 at this point, and that's not necessarily the amount that we're getting. So it's twice as long as this, so that'd be like 70 to 80 months to get, which is a very long timetable. Consumer goods, still a problem. Food is still a problem. We are heavily selling all of our strategic resources to make sure that we actually have a relatively stable economy, and we're buying a lot of consumer goods on the open market, so to speak, and it's kind of important that we do, otherwise then we're going to go completely and utterly bankrupt, which is something we want to avoid at all costs. Also no Cybrex stuff found recently, which is also problematic. And now it appears we have a revolt brewing on one of our planets. Apparently they have been discontent for quite some time, and if we don't do something about this, then we're going to have a problem. What can we do here, really, in terms of this planetary revolt? Well, we can distribute amenities. That's going to cost us 20 consumer goods, which we don't have. We can crack down. Essentially, we'll spend energy credits on soldiers. Stability will increase, and armor build speed will increase as well. I kind of like this. It ties together. Oh, the stability bonus. That is problematic. At level 4, we're looking at minus 25 stability. We're currently at 33. I could spend the luxury goods I also have the strip mining ability now, which gives us additional mining districts. Ooh. But it removes some of our agricultural districts. I'm just gonna distribute some luxury goods for now to increase amenities, and I should probably also build another district here. Maybe prioritize... Oh, this is something I never thought I would say. Prioritize the clerks in this particular case, so we can boost amenities and keep the stability up. And that will remove the revolt modifier. Yeah, there you go. That's what we're talking about. But it's going to hit our economy. There was no way in hell we could have afforded to increase the amount of consumer goods we would pump into that place. Sadly. And we cannot really renegotiate our agreement in terms of how many consumer goods are going out there. We're already at the minimum, so we can already go to 75 at some point, which is something we want to avoid at all cost. So we're already paying the minimal amount, so our Overlord is being kind in that regard, but if we don't do something about this, we're going to get horribly crippled soon. Look, I'm not going to put anything around this here. We're going to need to get more pops, because our pops are not growing fast enough. Nihilistic acquisition is most likely the way to go here, and we should probably also look to declare war on one of our neighbors if we can. Am I even allowed to go to war? Let's ask that question. We got some neighbors over here. We don't know who they are. The Yarim, I think they're called? What are they called here? The Yarim. They're probably a lot stronger than us, but we don't have any claims at the moment, but we should be able to go to war with them, which would allow us to get some pops, which is something that we need at this moment in time. So we're going to need to improve our weapon assets, but I already see that we're going to need to buy a significant amount of food and consumer goods yet again. And I don't want to dip into my alloys right now, because we are trying to get as many alloys up and running as possible, but we're going to need to get more artisans up and running as well, because otherwise we're going to once again run into serious problems here. I hate to do this, but we're going to need to go in some trade negotiations with other empires to offset our consumer good issues here. Otherwise, yeah, 13 alloys. It's about 20% to 30% of our market cap for 20 consumer goods a month. It's not great, but we should probably do so in order to get the things that we need and get the trade oh my lord. Okay, so okay, we give alloys. The Vor technocracy gives us consumer goods. That's okay. That's fine. We can offset this with some other things where needed, but trading with empires outside of the fiefdom seems to be useful in this particular case to float our economy a little bit better. Maybe I can go ahead. This is my Overlord. Vor technocracy, the Gyroid Empire. Maybe these guys will want to give us something in return for our stuff. Maybe some food? Are you interested in monthly food? Maybe. Okay, how about, say, 20 food, and I will give you energy in return. Oh, we may actually have a trade deal going on here. That's a lot of money. That's half of our energy income, but it would completely offset our food issues. It's not great. That's very expensive. Could I maybe interest you in minerals instead? It's a little bit more appetizing, because minerals I have a lot of, and I can easily generate... They did not want to do it. Why not? Okay, well, we're going to continue with trade deals here and see if that is the way to go. So we have some freeholders to our north. Yeah, that's potentially going to be a problem, as they are right next to our borders, which obviously causes some issues, but at least we can now survey over in towards this direction, so that it's going to give us a little bit more flexibility. And being... Oh, good lord, I have to buy consumer goods again. We're basically flooding the galactic market with resources, so that's happening. Let's hope that we can... The Holy Spirian Empire can now use subjugation against us. We can now... The Commissariat... The Galactic Spirian Administration... Oh! My... Overlord seems to have... completely collapsed. Alrighty then. That happened. It looks like we are free. With no great leader to hold them together, the Holy Spirian Empire has dissolved into several parts, with each claiming the right to rule over the old empire. Without the strength of legitimacy of old, however, their hold over all their vassals has crumbled to nothing 53 years into the game. With disparate parts of the old empire fighting over the throne of the Holy Spirian Empire, their old subjects are trying to find their way in their now independent future. Yeah. We can be free, or we can get free casus belli on everybody. Is this gonna solve my consumer good? Oh my lord, my consumer good problem is over. Okay, so that was rather unexpected. Okay, it's time to go in the warfare here, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to the front. All of my ships are going to be upgraded. It's time to go to war. We do have this technology deficit at the moment, and how big is this empire? Overwhelming. Holy Spirian Empire. They've got a bunch of systems. They have only one planet, from what I can see. Is this it? This is the Holy Spirian Empire? The Commonwealth? Oh, they are so ripe for the picking. And energy crystals. Yeah, okay then. We are free, and it's time for retribution. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this. We are free at last.